You've been working on some mobility and agility and all kinds of stuff, huh?
Like most, I thought I knew everything about muscles. Learning a lot of Pilates.
He's a pro bodybuilder, guys.
All right, the thing that sold me was I broke out into like a feverish sweat. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't do anything but pull on ropes.
Sounds like the goal is to feel better, which is probably the origin of most workouts.
Joseph Pilates was in World War I concentration camp. He invented all the machines. He invented all the exercises. You move what's available today. Every body can do Pilates. You've got these problems. The boxer has these problems. But in here, everyone joins the room and gets in and gets down, and you just do the best that you can. That's the magic, is that you take these puzzles, you take these rules, and you say, piece this one together. Because there are no drugs in natural bodybuilding, the means are more unnatural than anything I've ever seen.
You got a Sergio Olivier story for us?
Yeah, I got a Serge story.
All right.
So I heard this one from my uncle. So my uncle is my Uncle Lyndon, long-time Chicago police guy. Now he's got a desk job. Sergio came to this country because he was on a weightlifting team, Cuban weightlifting team. They had to meet somewhere, somehow, sometime, and they found an American embassy. Those guys left them fucking meet and just ran and dived into the American embassy, the American citizens.
Yeah.
Sergio the Great.
Boom.
Boom, baby. Yeah.
He came in and won some Mr. Olympias. Beat
I
Arnold.
mean, with that kind of tenacity to jump a fence of an embassy and just land on the grass and say, I'm American now? What freedom.
He must have saw the opportunities. Like, F it, I'm going for it.
That's a big guy to sneak in.
And that's the thing, right?
right?
It would seem so obvious that you would say, what's he doing? You know, you wouldn't think he's doing anything. You'd think he's, you know, probably has the authority to be doing it. You know, he's a big guy that big. So.
Bodybuilders today, I don't know if they'd make it over the wall.
I don't think they'd have the
right? The mobility.
capacity. Yeah.
You've been working on some mobility and agility and all kinds of stuff, huh?
Yeah, unbeknownst to me, I didn't think I was going to do it. I thought it was fine. I thought like most, I thought I knew everything about muscles, skeletal muscle, I should say. But I've been learning a lot of Pilates. I didn't know when
to shut the show off just right now.
He's a pro bodybuilder, guys.
All right, so I should give a quick.
Why'd they shut it off so quick?
Before you go. Before you go.
Yeah, hold on. There's a story and there's white women and it's cool.
It's all white women.
That's what I'm saying.
It's all white women. It's all white women. Like, I've never, like, what reason, even familial.
In really nice pants too. Tight pants.
Dude, they're like, how do I say this? So like, all right, my fiance is she's Indian, Pakistani. So she's brown, everything.
My girl's 20% Pakistani.
Right,
we just learned that from 23andMe.
Right, just big. And so like when I just never really, you know, I went to school. I'm from Chicago. I mean, I go to school with everyone. But I never sat for hours in as comrades, as white women. They have a completely different world structurally than the world of the black man. You know what I mean? Like the way they deal with problems, like they wait it out. You know, like
they got time,
dude. They. I'm like, so you're just not gonna lay the smack down, right? Dude, they wait it out. They'll hold a grievance in longer until they find the correct answer. That is not how I was raised, you know. Like, you throw somebody against a turnbuckle when you got an issue, right here, right now, you know. So that's been a secret pleasure, is being around white women, dude, and listening to the world. And then the craziest thing about it, I got hazed by white women too, right? Like I joined this program, and you know, you got to weed out the weak, right? So my Pilates program starts. I come in. And I'm just, I'm this, I'm that. Everyone's got to introduce themselves. And I don't know. We always try to downplay it, but we physically cannot, right? We physically cannot. And dude, I'm not saying anyone centered me out or anything like that. It wasn't like that. I was just like the guy, you know, those old school Marines, and they just got the guy in the back of the pack. What's the name of the guy in Full Metal Jacket? The guy who just
Gomer Pyle.
Gomer Pyle. I was Gomer Pyle, dude. I just could not clean my gun. I just so many things that they were doing muscularly, I hadn't had access to, right? So I say white women, but it's really mostly dancers, right? And a lot of people who, at least from what I've seen, have access to Pilates are dancers. And most people who have access to dance are women, right? There are many male dancers. There's this one dancer, I actually learned about, a ballet dancer. I think his name is Barishnikov. And this guy, dude.
He's famous, yeah.
Dude, he's like a peacock. He's like so strong. And I think that was one of the first things I saw from the dance world that made sense. Because I said, well, if his glutes are strong and his hamstrings are strong, and I can't stand on my toes like that, should I be calling him girly? Or should I be say there's some missing chain in my body that I can't do? So I was randomly going to the gym this one day. And I'll tell you how this Pilates made sense. I train at a performance training center, 100,000 square feet, like the works, like this, right? Turf, everything. One day I just didn't want to go in. It was winter in Chicago. I just didn't want to get out the car. I said, I wish I had a nicer gym, like an Equinox or just some nice shit, you know? And so I go to this gym. It's called FFC. They're in Chicago. There's just like a 12 luxury, expensive type gym, right? So I go and I sign up and they do the whole thing. Well, you get 2 free classes and blah, 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 and 2 free sessions. And I say, oh, whatever. And so
I'm never going to do that.
I'm never going to do that. Never going to do that. Yeah. And so they said, you can get a massage. I was going to do a massage. They got all the services. I said, I'll do Pilates, right? So my fiance and I signed up. We go do Pilates. And the first machine they lay me down is this machine called the Reformer, right? It's true to its name, right? It exists to reform your body. Oh, yeah, that's me and my fiance. So that's the first space that we opened. It was like that space is like it was like 150 square feet. So this is the Reformer, right? So the Reformer is strange. You can put yourselves in these weird and odd combinations, and it can do things. So what's pulling me is a spring tension. You can kind of see on my fiance's that's sort of attached to the base of the rail of the machine. And what it does is that it will pull you, stretch you, and if you push resistance against it, you can strengthen yourself in those positions. So what I'm just doing here, I'm trying to actually, not just through my legs, but through all the way from my C1, all the way down to my T1, all the way that starts here in my collarbone, and I'm trying to just
each little part of your spine to move.
Each part of your spine moves. So you have an assignment in Pilates. So you can think of Pilates less like exercise and more like poses, right? The same way that they have poses. That's my younger brother. The same way that they have poses in
your younger brother, the Olympic jumper.
Oh yeah, that's my younger brother's an Olympic jumper. So look at this guy. He's as high as you can get for an athlete. And the key to this exercise is called pulling a strap, right? I asked him to lift his belly button, to lift from his pubic bone up to his belly button, and to keep his ribs from flaring. And he can't do it. It's not that he can't do it. It's that he just doesn't know how to do it. Just no one ever taught him how to do it. He's never been that involved. So imagine when you go to bench press, where's your rib cage placement? Where's your breathing placement, right? So from Pilates, I got on this thing, like I said, I got my free session. And the thing that sold me was I broke out into like a feverish sweat. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't do anything but pull on ropes, you know? But I found that it was the ask that they were asking me to, right? To squeeze my heels together, to point my toes. And it's a puzzle to each pose, right? So the method was invented by this guy, Joseph Pilates. Joseph Pilates was a man. I think it's a Nazi method, right? It's not very popular to say, but if you look at a lot of the Nazi...
Pilates started off as a Nazi method?
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh.
Let me be very correct,
Okay.
right? But how should I say it? It's a Nazi thinking method, right? He was born in Germany in 1888. I just think at that time, the German thinking, and this is not like anything outside of, how do I say it? It's not anything outside of the norm. It's skeletal muscle. Right? It's just a strange method, no different than
Do you feel like it's a very forceful method? Like the way that he maybe originally designed it?
No. So what he originally called it was contrology. So the idea is that for every skeletal muscle you have, including your diaphragm, you should be able to call complete control on the muscle, no matter what muscle it is, right? We should be able to...
like when somebody gets a cramp in a very specific spot, that area is twitching, but it would be hard to flex that one particular spot.
You would have no control. So you can liken it to, let's say a baby, you have how many
kids, yeah.
So they all learned how to walk at some point.
Absolutely.
Just like that. You just set them down. That's how the Pilates method works. You say, okay, do this. Come on, do this. And you're dumb, right? You don't have the signaling yet, right?
Never did it before, yeah.
You have no neural connection. So you start out like this. And they're like, curl the pelvis. And you're just like, and you got nothing. But skeletal muscle rules are skeletal muscle rules. Frequency works big time, right? Showing up works big time. The rules are very fair in skeletal muscle, right? So you show up, man, and you just keep doing these things, and eventually your body starts moving like butter, right? You start to be able to roll the ribs down one at a time. You actually start to get a sort of a mapping of what's going on here internally. I came from bodybuilding and powerlifting.
And real quick though, the funny thing about what you're saying is because when bodybuilders talk about the mind-muscle connection, the way they just try to describe it is kind of like they want control over these different parts of the body. Like a pro bodybuilder flexing on stage, when you hear Arnold or any of these guys talk about that, they want to have control of their muscles in these different positions. But what you're talking about is deeper.
Well, I think it's deeper because of where it goes, right? Like, if we were getting into, I can say, if you look at bodybuilding and powerlifting, it's a lot like NASCAR: faster, bigger, stronger, faster, right? But that's where we go, right? And eventually, that always leads to a collapse in a Rome-like fashion, right?
Yeah, and a bodybuilder is a little bit like the Terminator. Like Arnold, as the Terminator, knew so much about the human body because he was a killing machine. And a bodybuilder wants to be able to tap into those muscle fibers to cause as much damage as possible, kind of as quickly as possible.
I like that.
Right?
I like that. I need to write that one
Really
down.
recruit those muscle fibers. But in something like, in some other practices, something like Pilates, it sounds like the goal is to, we can get into what you feel the goal is, but it sounds like the goal is to feel better, which is probably the origin of most workouts, but everything has kind of gone sideways at some point.
I think that's the end result, right? And so okay, very clear. Joseph Pilates was born in 1888 Germany. They didn't think self-esteem then. They didn't think the method is cold, dude. And that's what attracted me to it, was that they were willing to kick you out of Pilates school. They were willing to not give a fuck about. I love that. I love that these people, it was difficult and they know it, right? Because I come from the world of sports. You make the team, you don't make the team, you get cut. Yeah. Dancers come from the same thing, dude. If a dancer gets an injury, they don't get to call a timeout. They keep dancing, dude. I think that's ridiculous. You just should at least be able to call a timeout. So they come from this hardcore culture, and I think they've done an amazing job at keeping up Joseph Pilates' practice. But ultimately, the thing needs, like all skeletal muscle, difficulty, right? The method is extremely difficult. It's slow and controlled through the rep ranges of motion, but you need to call on that muscle with, force would be the wrong word, with as much recruitment as possible, right? We're not putting on a lot of force. So, and the depth is unbelievable, right? Every exercise has to end in eventually a full body exercise, right? So the system has an order. Joseph Pilates would do it like this, right? So there's he invented all the machines, he invented all the exercises. So folklore says he invented it in a concentration camp. So Joseph Pilates was in a World War I concentration camp. He was doing circus performing, I believe. And then he literally somehow got caught in England, and they said, hey, you German guys, here's where you're going to stay. So he did that, invented some methods, I think, for a while. And
the World War going on, he's thinking about exercise.
He's like us.
Yeah.
He's one of us. He truly is one of us. He's the standout, he's one of the many, So he's an inventor of a method. This guy was hardcore. He invented this method. He went back home to Germany, actually, eventually after the war ended. Before World War II started, he came to the States. He's a kind of a crazy guy. He had a family there and everything. He just got on a boat and left, came to New York. I believe his studio was on 8th Avenue in New York, close to Central Park, and he said, that's American dream. This is where I'm going to be. And he did it, and that was the studio. He did it right out of that studio there, and he invented all the machines. He invented everything, and he would just work them, dude. He was brutal. Look at him, dude. He's brutal. You should be strong, he said. Joseph Pilates used to say, you bring the electricity. You bring the electricity. You function the machines, right? His whole purpose is to get you as strong as possible through everywhere. He demands, look at the dorsiflexion he's asking of, right? Like
the foot thing you were talking about before the podcast is huge.
This is called, what he's doing right now is called footwork. So that's a foot bar on the reformer that he just puts down. And so now you can grab these handles which have spring tension. And she's doing what's called the 100, which is the warm-up. So you're in a pelvic, I don't want to call it a tuck, so to speak. That lower ab is pulled up and you're pumping those arms as fast as you can from the core. So imagine when you go to run and sprint, you're sprinting from as distally as proximally as you can. So the method holds true. Any method you do, any exercise you do here, he's going to ask you to say, all right, recruit it as center as you can, from the core as you can. And the better you get at it, the more of a stillness comes in, right? And so on the reformer, you have a series of exercises that make sure that you go through everything. This exercise is called rowing, and there's rules for everything. So even if we were to look at what she's doing now, let's take simply, what are the rules of the scapula to the humerus, right? If we were to look in space, right? If I were to take where my humeral head points and I would put my arm forward, my scapula has a constant relationship to it, right? I am serraped forward and around. If I were to take my arm back like I'm going into a coat, that scapula has to tip, or else I'm anteriorly tipped, right? I have to go backward this way. So what Pilates does is she's a master in these videos. It tells you how to go through all these movements. So you learn, where does the scapula go? Where do I push it up? Where do I squeeze? Where do I tip it back? Like jujitsu, like running, like powerlifting, you can do in powerlifting, what do they call it, right? They call them box squats, pauses. So you can take the method down much, much, much slower and do things. So these movements require an extreme amount of detail in how the individual system works, and then a complete tying into how everything works within the system. I mean, and this is old. Look at the guy. He's got no shirt on, and, you know.
How old do you think he is there? He looks like 60, 70 something?
I would say this had to be probably, and I'm not a Pilates expert. There are many experts. I would probably say he was probably closer to his 60s. I know he died, I want to say his 80s or 70s or something like that. So
they knew that. They knew how to get the views back then. He's like, I'm gonna, train her in my underwear. It's gonna be awesome.
And he would do that every day. He would train every day in his studio in his under. He was a crazy.
Looks like a swimmer or something. He looks like he's in good shape.
He was, man. But this was the only method he believed in, right? He only believed in his method. Like, look at this crazy scapular control she's got here. Like, that's all in her scapula.
So is there
keeping the core up.
In Pilates in general? Is there no like contact with the ground, kind of?
No. So Pilates has many ways to do it. Okay, so the exercises, they're all very similar, but different. And they all call on something else, and everything fills in a gap. So this is just a reformer. You can do the complete method with no equipment on the floor, right? So that's called mat Pilates. And so you do movements like these on the floor, let's say, so to speak. Like, you can clearly, you've done these before. These are something like bench dips, right? But instead here, on this was called a long back stretch, right? You're tucking your pelvis and you're trying to get it to move forward through the pelvis. So you start off with some rudimentary version of the exercise. You just go for it, kind of like a baby walking. And clearly, the first time a child walks, they're not going to get it, right? They're just not going to get it.
I like how she's going through these movements that we're watching on this like YouTube video.
Yeah.
And she is doing a movement, like it seems like a way that she's like selecting, maybe he's shouting something out to her. And then they're adjusting as they go. I've always liked to do that. When I was doing certain exercises, I always liked to, let me move in this range. Oh, now let me move in this range.
Yeah, a big thing that I think one of my instructors always says is you move what's available today, right? Weather, barometer, pressure, there's many reasons, sleep, recovery. And so Pilates says, well, let's take what's available today, and you continue to train with that availability. But as we all know, that spectrum changes of what's available the more you continue to show up.
And I love you said that, partially just because, a lot of people, the reason why they don't start jujitsu, one thing I've heard is like, I'm not mobile enough, I'm not flexible enough. Start where you are. Same thing with Pilates. You see what she's doing right here.
That takes humility, my friend.
I'm not mobile or flexible. You start where you are. What exactly you said? What was the phrase? Start where?
Take what's available.
Take what's available.
Take what's available.
And
take what's available. Take what's available. Yeah, but that's not a lot of people's intention, right? They see Smelly on 800 and they want 800 too. That's what they don't want to go through what they don't know what basement he started. They just want the glory, they want the stage, and they want it pretty quickly. And I would say this is, if I had to call it something, at least within the realm of what we're doing, it's purely foundational work, right? Oh yeah, thigh stretch.
The reverse Nordic, as we call it nowadays.
Oh,
people been doing this shit, man.
And, well, there's no new body, right? Right? How many hominid versions are there? It's called snake and twist. So even the Neanderthal moved something similar to me. My chassis, my stock version has been pretty much the same, right? It's only as of recent that we make discoveries for its potential, right? I think that's the beauty of the body, and particularly skeletal muscle. Its depth, right? You see people dedicating, obviously athletes, a life to these practices, and it doesn't matter what anything.
What she did right there is just the inversion. Like, that's something that people do in jiu-jitsu all the time. But the fact that she's doing that on a reformer, you wouldn't see somebody doing something like that in a gym.
Absolutely.
But it's so cool that, look,
absolutely,
Andrew, that's just inverting.
And complete control. So you see, controlled it all the way from her cervical. Complete control. Complete control. So that's the idea. And so, like I said, I wouldn't, when you think about these as exercises, they're funky. I think this guy thought very straightforward, practically said, how can I get this to extend? How can I get this to flex? How can I get dorsiflexion here? I think he thought purely from less trying to look sexy, less trying to look good. I think he was looking purely for what it's almost like if you were to draw out the formula for movement, this is what it would look like mathematically. Yoga is a representative of this too, right? Except he has a few things he believes in. No hypermobility in his method, right? It's not healthy for a joint to be hypermobile. We've known this for a while. You can get hurt more often. That's actually something I see. Back to kind of the white women thing we were talking when we started, is that everybody has an interesting set of problems, right? Like you see when she has some exercises when she's in a plank-like position, right? There's a million plank-like exercises you do. Or even that tendon stretch when you saw she had her arms behind her and she was going up. Or even where she's at right now, she's pressing her arms firmly into that carriage. She's like pressing down very firmly. They have a lot of weakness in their upper body just because generally women don't have the same strength in their upper body. And then in particularly, right, I would say this, the average American white girl, her body language isn't exactly stabilize her elbows. There's a lot of hyperextension in her elbow. And it's just a cultural thing. It's not even a notable thing that you would really notice. So I like seeing how everybody can do Pilates. So though I say white women and I joke, it's been interesting to look at them up close and say, you've got these problems. The boxer has these problems. This person has this. And it's been interesting to see the body through the lens of just a body, period. See how you can move, not look at someone and think, oh, you're fucking small, I'm not going to listen to you, right? There's a bunch of crazy blurred thinking. But in here, everyone joins the room and gets in and gets down. And you just do the best that you can, absolutely.
Is it okay to kind of say that it seems like sometimes you lift in an advantageous way and sometimes you intentionally lift in a disadvantageous way?
Oh, that's
because I saw this woman going through these exercises. She's doing things with momentum here and there,
right?
But it's still controlled momentum, and then she's doing things the exact opposite way,
right?
Which kind of makes me think of like a lateral raise. So if you lean into a lateral raise, that changes the spectrum of where the strength curve is. If you lean away from a lateral raise, the same thing is true. And if you just stay straight up and down, it has a different impact. So
right.
I'd imagine some of that's going on.
But yes, and I think even another layer before that is the intention of the exercise. A lateral raise is clearly to laterally work the deltoid and that lat, and that's the purpose. That's how the exercise was designed, with some type of weight in your hand, a dead weight. Pilates is not designed for that. It's designed to say, okay, on every movement, your entire spine needs to be functioning, right? So whatever she's doing, it may involve, I'm just making something up, it may involve her laterally raising her arm, but also having some lateral flexion incorporated into it as well, right? As well as making sure that her midline is squeezed. Midline meaning that, I forgot the name of that muscle that goes, what's the one that makes the six-pack? It splits the six-pack in two.
Sternum.
Yeah, it's a tendon that runs from here straight down. It makes the six-pack split. It's a tendon that we're basically connected to.
Sounds good.
Right, but you squeeze that thing, and you don't start just squeezing it from here. You squeeze it from the hip. So for instance, put your thighs together right now, right? And get the full length of your thighs together, and squeeze those, and try to squeeze it all the way from the knee to the pelvis. Eventually, you'll feel that lower ab wants to start recruiting in on the squeeze. Keep going. Go up to the rib cage and close it. Close your system entirely. Now put your arms up in the air and keep squeezing. Inhale. Keep it down as you inhale. Unshrug. Yes, and get your neck taller. So it's a reaching method. It's a stretching. Yes.
Yeah.
And so let's add some spring tension to you. Right? And so that's the magic, is that you take these puzzles, you take these rules, and you say, piece this one together. And no one's going to, like a baby, you're not just going to walk up. You got to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run. And that's what the method is really and truly. It looks like nothing. And I think the reason why dancers take to this so well is because dancers are literally trained for multi-dimensional movement. They literally ask for their muscles to do things that I don't do. Right? Dancing is a skeletal muscle movement.
Right now, I know you're looking in the mirror. You're getting ready for your nephew's quinceañera. You have a long sleeve on that looks horrible and your pants don't fit right. That's why we partnered. I don't know why you're laughing. That's why we've partnered with Viore Clothing. You see, this is the Boulevard shirt jacket. Fits great, stretchy, feels amazing. It's the best long sleeve in my closet. And one of the biggest things that we love about Viore is that they have clothes that you can wear to parties. They have clothes that you can wear in the gym. Like I said, your nephew's quinceañera. You can look great wherever you go if you step your fashion game up. Plus, this stuff feels like baby skin on your skin, which is kind of creepy, but at the same time, it's kind of nice and you know it. Andrew, where can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to viore.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project to automatically receive 20% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
I think that what you mentioned there is one of the coolest things and why Pilates can be something for everybody. Because what you said, like, how would a dancer be able to train the ability to move in such a graceful and dynamic way? They're spinning, they're kicking, they're jumping,
Absolutely.
and then they're landing in such a graceful way. It'd be great to do some strength training, but something like this that can allow you to exercise while getting in all of the different ranges of motion. Dancers congregate to this. It's like the normal person doing this would reap so much benefit.
And I've always said this, and this is why I got shocked with Pilates. Dancers are the upholders of the method. Sort of how do I say this? The high school football coach is the upholder of the strength and conditioning method, right? Like he or she has spread that message far and wide. And this is a method that dancers have selected. And I think moreover in America, the market select things, right? When this guy did what he did, came to America, moved to 8th Avenue, the dancers chose him, right? It was a free market choice. It seemed to be a naturally occurring relationship. So I think it's been hidden, buried in dance world, and then also in the Hollywood world of very expensive Pilates. And I've been exercising my whole life. It's exercise, and that was the thing I couldn't get over, was this sort of like mystique of it. And the mystique is no mystique. It's written in dancer jargon. And it was just been hard to encode and learn some of the ways that they communicate and speak. So I think Pilates is for, no joke, every type of body, every somata type. I think it's for everyone can benefit from learning 3 Pilates moves and incorporating those. I don't think you need to do the full method. It's as deep as you want it to be, But I think everyone can learn from these, because these exercises are not asking you to get big delts.
Look at those
They're
feet,
asking,
though.
dude, look at those. Look at that flexion in her feet, right? Yeah. You'd cramp up on that.
Probably.
You'd cramp up on that. And then look how she lengthens the spine, right? So the method does a few things, unlike a lateral raise. So this is called I think it's called monkey, actually.
Ooh!
Damn.
Bad.
I want to do that.
Hey, dude, if you got to come to my studio, me and you just take a week and we work it. I've got this crazy studio. I have no plans. I kind of got the idea from you. I have no plans on making a business with it, really. I just want to roll people around. I want to roll around and just record stuff. That's my goal with it. So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. So you see all these different apparatuses, they all do different things and they all fill in different holes, right? Where you can't, to get a dipping mechanism, you can get this on what's called, this is called a chair, right? So there's a spring that she's loading on the bottom of that pedal, and it helps you raise up just a tiny bit, or you can use or you can go against it on its resistance. This is called a ladder barrel. Joseph's a bad boy. Look at him, man. He's just tearing her up, right? He's just tearing her up. But that's the method, right? In yoga, yoga is its own method. I'm not trying to be comparative. Yoga is very nice by nature and bad by nature. Not in a bad way, but it's bad in its sleekness and its uniqueness. Joseph Pilates is straight up slap you in the face your day one of practice. Bad. And it's unlike anything else I've ever seen in my life. Everything, foot correctors, everything. But toes.
Look, the neck works in concordance with the whole body.
To the whole body. So she has to recruit from the floor in her heels to close that midline like we were just doing, and from the floor move that neck. You don't just move your neck, right? Any fool can just move their neck, right? But the goal is, how do you make every exercise a compound exercise? Every single one, right? A feat that the dancer does well. Right, that's why their movement is so beautiful and graceful, because they do it all in one. So when I look at Pilates, at least for me, I look at it as similar to a dancer. Dancers say, I'm a dancer, and what method can keep me. And I think Pilates for me is very similar. I enjoy, truly, is getting some type of weight in my hand. The clink of the weights. I did leg press the other day with just 3 plates on there and for high reps, and I just love the noise of it. As much Pilates as I learned, just that noise. Look at this. He's training the breath. It's unbelievable.
Diaphragmatic breathing, as you were talking about,
Absolutely.
right?
Dude, he trains, if you got a muscle, he'll train it. I'm not going to get you very swole, right? That's not his promise, but at least you'll use it. You'll use these muscles. So
well, you're using the whole body in conjunction is probably, and the intensity is not high, right? There's not a lot of weight. You're moving from one thing to the next.
So this is where it gets interesting. So this is what's called the order, right? So the order starts very simply, right? So you start with stuff like just flexion, lying down horizontally, and then he works you. He flips you over. He says, now let's do some extension. Then he flips you over again. He says, now let's do some side work. Then he stands you up. Then he puts you upside down. Then he puts you on your hands. And then he puts your head looking inward. Then he inverts your butt up. Then he pikes you. He cooks you well done, if you can get through the method.
Yeah.
But the way he ran it, he basically would start with these exercises where, let's say something like you lie on your back, you get one leg vertical, you get one leg horizontal to the ground. Can you circle one leg, pointing that toe, reaching long? It's called a leg circle, right? And you just start there, right? And you just start there. So the method is very progressive. So it gets up to, how do I say this? You start feeling like a dancer eventually. You start incorporating your whole body. You start to believe the sort of mind-bodiness of this kind of whole thing, and it's really amazing. It's really mind-blowingly amazing. I have still to this day, after going to Pilates school, and I'm still in school, I'm still getting my hours. My heart is not for this. I don't love this thing. It's become more of a It's become
Pilates self-defense or something, or is he just doing self-defense?
Joseph Pilates had a lot of things. Dude.
Yeah.
He was, you're an inventor. There's no one thing. Maybe some things you've made, I heard about, but I got a lot of shit too. So he had a lot of things. I can't attest to everything he did. He had ways to sleep, ways to shower, ways to walk, but his method of contrology, as he called it, Pilates is what the dancers call it. That's what I've taken to. So he was a man of trying to make many methods, many ways to move, and it's really incredible. And I hate to say it, he was just kind of like not as successful probably, I think, with the method as he wanted to be. And I think that's partly because, like, when I came in here today, dude, you share your space. It's very warm when you come in here. You've always been nice every time I've run into you, public, private. And I just don't think he was about that. I think he was about the method. I think he was a genius. I think he lacked a lot of things you would expect from a complete genius, right? A solo practitioner. He doesn't have, this is not like bodybuilding where we've had greats add to this, or powerlifting where we've had many prophets and teachers. This is the only dude. It's just one dude. It's just one guy. It's one crazy German guy came to America and dedicated his life to this practice. So
The whole thing is named after him.
the whole thing is named after him. I'm not sure how you'd feel about it all today, but doesn't matter. Exercise is exercise. Doesn't matter if the light was found in you. It's for others. So yeah, it's been for me going up into the, how do I say, the aging portion of my athletics now, a sustainer to my method. It's been able to keep me lifted and feeling good, and my blueprint, my mapping, right? It's sort of like when you hear about a chicken with its head cut off, right? You can gather enough information outside of the brain in the spinal cord alone that a chicken knows how to run, right? The chicken doesn't need to think about it; you just get it, and it becomes that way with all movement. It's a strange intelligence that the muscles and nerves sort of have. They're like miniature brains in the spinal cord, so to speak, with memory and stuff. So this has been good. If I had to liken it to anything, PT. I think the closest thing we have to this is PT. In fact, a lot of PTs send people to Pilates. I've been hearing about that lately. And I think what they all have in common is they understand structurally how each joint moves, and then the intensities at which they're working. I think those are the two things they have in common. I'm not saying the practice or the method is the same thing. Not at all. If you get hurt, go to a PT. Do not go to Pilates, But I think beyond that, beyond getting full function, what do you do? What do you do? You don't even know how to work it. And the fact that we're looking at these exercises and we've never seen them means that we can move this way. We are possible of it. This is not some strange thing. This is just people moving their body, and I think it just looks unconventional in many ways, but it works. It's muscle stimulus. I don't know how with rules. It's pretty simple, but so complex at the same time.
After watching some of this, it seems like you can use your own creativeness, to implement some things that might be similar. So it might not be Pilates necessarily that you're doing. It might not be exactly as it was written, and it might not be in the exact pattern of the exercises, but when I see them doing like they're putting their ankles back, I'm thinking, oh, that might be kind of cool to try with like ankle weights. And I know that like the way that they're doing it in particular ways, they got a lot of control. But for someone like me that's stiff, it's like maybe occasionally having weight on a particular limb or in my hands, maybe it will assist me the way that he was assisting that woman through some exercises.
I would have to say that would work, but it would be sort of a blunt way. So the way that the method is taught is Joseph's like, he's a roughhouser, right? So like when I teach Pilates, it's live. So as you're moving, I'm speaking to you, and your sole voice of movement is the instructor, right? You listen to what I'm saying, and I'm auditing you. I'm watching you. I'm putting my hands on you. I'm correcting you and moving you. Throughout the session, you get touched, you get adjusted. So it's like those ankle weights. It can give you assistance. Or you could just, have someone who knows how to do the movements, and say, push this back a little further, right? If you can get it on your own, it's so much better, I think, in my opinion, than in ankle weight. And I think also the danger of adding weight to these, to these movements, is that I'm of the mind that I always want to add too much. I'm a strong guy. And so the part of the temptation is to sort of violate the rules of Pilates. So much of Pilates is the concentric as well as the eccentric, right? Sometimes you might have something that's going on concentrically, and then you have a complete stretch in another area, right? So with all the things that are going on completely in the body, you can throw something easily out of alignment if you were to throw on too much weight in the wrong place. I've obviously been experimenting around. So there's classical Pilates and there's conventional. Classical is what Joseph invented. I've got trained in classical in my program. And then there's conventional. You can add stuff. You can add weights. You can add lots of stuff. You can add props, bands. I personally think conventional is going to be the more accessible method. So what you're saying, I would have to agree with. I live here modern day. Not everyone's going to get on a $4,000 reformer. You know what I mean? And so you're going to have to get this to the people somehow.
Does the reformer have weight or resistance in some way?
Oh, it's got springs, right? Gosh, I got a video on my phone. So it's a think about like an 8-foot wooden carriage, a studio reformer, right? It's about maybe 35, maybe 33 inches wide, and it's just a long rectangle. Within it, it's got these rails, and the rails has that mat that you see that people were laying on, and the rails layout has this mat, and this mat has wheels, and that carriage, let's say, is attached with springs on the bottom to the rail. And so there's 4 springs, 5 springs, depending on the reformer, and each spring has a different load. One spring may be up to, at full tension, 30 pounds. One spring may be up to 12 pounds, and each exercise has a different combination of springs that you would use. So I think the reason why the springs work so well in this controlling method is because a dumbbell gets a little stupid through space as the center of gravity changes, right? If I were to try to take a dumbbell and do an overhead extension, it loses itself somewhere, right? As opposed to spring tension, it works with me. It's
a little bit like a band.
Like 100%, like PTs do it, right? Bands, right? Bands are a great way, I think, you can get Pilates done, right? I think so. I think it's going to be, in my opinion, a more accessible method to do some of these things. So yeah, it's just like a band. It's just like a band. And that is, in his day, he had springs. So this is a reformer. This is a balanced body reformer. These guys are based out of Sacramento, actually. Yeah, they're like the biggest ones. I don't want to say the biggest in the world, but probably the most profound. The owner of this company, Ken Edelman. So I don't know if you remember around 2000. When I went on this journey, I Googled any bodybuilders who've ever done Pilates. Right, I'm trying to see, am I the first person to step on this dry land of this island? And it turns out I think I am. I found nothing. The only thing I found was from 2000. I think it was a Charles Poliquin article about should bodybuilders do Pilates.
Of course, Charles Poliquin did that.
It was a fervent no.
No, really?
It was like a fervent. It was a fervent no. It was a fervent no. And one of his biggest arguments was that, which I thought was ironic. He said that they can't get it together. Around the year 2000, there was a lawsuit against some of Joseph's students, and it's a lineage thing, right? Joseph taught his head student Romana, and it's like dance, and Romana taught, and so I was taught by somebody who in my program, she was Joseph taught this lady Romana. Romana taught my teacher, and my teacher taught me. Right. So the goal with Pilates is how do I get the purest cut of Joseph all the time? They're always seeking how do you keep it? How do you keep it? Because it's so hard. It's such a difficult method. It's like kung fu or anything. The closer you could be to the masters, the better you'd get it. They had a lawsuit, dude, and someone was trying to sue over the use of the name Pilates, right? And so this guy who made that reformer, Ken Elderman, I don't know what money he put up, and I don't know how he did it, but he basically went and put up a big fight over this, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, I think. And the name Pilates is a universal exercise method. CrossFit, I think, is the only one who has their name.
Yeah.
CrossFit owns CrossFit, right? And even Pilates doesn't own their name.
Let me ask you a question about this real quick, Ryan, because like the lineage thing you mentioned is a lot like jujitsu. Like there's like in Helio Gracie and so many of like the top jujitsu world champs or whatever, the guys that own a lot of schools now that have their own jujitsu schools, they can trace their lineage back all the way.
Right.
But with jujitsu, because it's become so popular, there have been so many things that have been figured out, so many different types of moves and styles from new people, right? Where it's like, it's massively expanded. So it doesn't matter if like your lineage leads to Helio because there's a lot of cool new shit. So with Pilates, I wonder, like, you know, obviously there have probably been things that are added, but it seems like if you can understand the method and you can understand kind of like the systems, you can build something.
So I think this is what's interesting about Pilates, right? Joseph Pilates was two things, if he was nothing else. A genius to figure this out in one lifetime, invent all the machine. I mean, you understand, you do this stuff. It's crazy. It takes, like, you've been at this since you were 10 years old, you know? He's dedicated his life to this. And secondly, a solo practitioner, right? So his opinion is the alpha, the omega, you know? So to hear Joseph's version, I think it's the best way to understand the method truly. And I think if you were to start, they'd call it conventionally. If you were to start more conventionally, you might be missing something, right? So in my opinion, and this is because I'm classically trained, I think if you can at least learn what his original intentions were for the method, you kind of have to play the game to change the game first, right? You can't just come in freestyling, or else that wouldn't be Pilates anymore, right? You clearly see with the movements we were doing, if you're an inch off, it ain't Pilates, right? It's wrong. It's wrong. It's just, I don't know how else to say it. It's just wrong. You know, you should always be getting more smooth, more control with these movements. And that's sort of the idea. But can you learn Pilates? Like my main teacher, Kim, the one who actually teaches me, the one who's gracious to me, the home studio that I'm in, she doesn't come from this like crazy lineage world. She's just bad to the bone. You know, she's just good. You know, some people are just better than others, you know. New schools of thought come up, you know. It's kind of like, the Buddha kind of came from this whole Hinduism world, you know. And so change is necessary. Change happens. So I would say to get the idea of what Joseph was going for, yes, but at the same time, practically it's exercise, man. You know, like it's exercise, you know. It's just muscles, dude. It doesn't take words. It takes exercise. So
what does it do? Like, what do you think the advantage is? Like, why have you been so drawn to it?
One, I think it satisfies the tenacity to seek, right? Like, I think if you're one of those people who always knock to find opportunities or always looking for something new, one place you can find it, like, you know, you live out here, you go out to eat, they got some new burger, some new thing, and it's always okay, right? A new thing is always okay. It seems like where I can get best is in the same old thing with better depth, with doing it better, with doing it in a better version. That is the promise of the method. It promises more depth of the muscle. It's not going to make you jacked. It's not going to make, it's just saying that you will be able to successfully use this bicep better than most people. Like you, in all your big lifts that you've done. It's not that you're actually stronger than most people. You just know how to use the muscle better, more efficiently, know what position to put it in. And that's what the practice is. It's similar to a lift. You know, I think at first you see it with these biased eyes and you're like, what exactly is this thing doing? It's repping muscles. I don't know how much more simply to say it. It's repping muscles with a new style of rules. And it's reps, baby. When you look at Pilates stuff, they say how many reps. It's got reps. It's got everything. It's muscle work. So I think to that, its fruit is all its benefits, and those benefits are healing. Movement is medicine. I just don't know how. You know, that's what we've done. So this isn't doing anything strange or particularly new. Just someone figured out how exactly do I put all this together? That's it. Someone just figured it out. It's been there, lying there for us, and this is a guy who just figured it out, like somebody figured out bodybuilding or gymnastics or anything else. Someone just put their mind to it. So I think this practice helps with my ability to continue to stay after it. Like we were saying out there on the gym floor earlier, half the time I spend now is on some type of non-intense work. I'm on the floor, I'm rolling, stretching, static stretching, dynamic stretching, doing cardio. Like I'm doing all types of things to keep the appearance of a muscular person. But it's more work than just lifting, you know, especially if you want to sustain it and stay in the game.
Yeah.
It's 50% maintenance work. If you got an old 67 Shelby, dude, you're not just driving that thing fresh and young. That thing lives in a garage. It lives on life support. It lives on oil changes. Like it's more maintenance than it is fun. But that's the beauty of an age thing, you know. So I think with muscle, that same thing happens. If you can move the muscle, you garner in blood flow, you garner in all the positive things about fluid exchange that we know, plus the practice of breathing. Everything's got a specific breathing pattern for every single exercise. You leave feeling not only like you've had a mind-body connection, but you actually have moved a new muscle. You actually have gained a deeper respect for the muscle. And you posture-wise, you feel more put together. You feel more correct after you're done, right? And I think that leads you to go not do anything bad, right? Like Andrew was talking about when he hit his head. Andrew, I forgot the move that you did when you hit your head on there.
Yeah, I was just going for a takedown, and instead of keeping my head up and moving around the dude's leg, my head went straight into the guy's quad and compressed my neck.
Terrible. But imagine his scapula was in a different place. Imagine if his rib were in a correct place, right? I'm not saying I know what happened, but there are many things you can get away with, I find, when you do them with correct posture. It's like when kids fall. They're so tight, right? Their posture's so good. Every joint is so stable that when they fall, they just go, and that's pretty much the end of it. Versus me, you know, I'm on my computer doing this, and so when I bump my head into a guy's thigh, I shrug up, my rib now floats forward, my abdominals float to the side, and I'm like this, I'm in a drunken car crash, basically. You know, it's a terrible reality. I get hurt more easy, and we see this go all the way up to hip replacements and hips breaking. We grow more fragile because we actually lose the stability of the joint. We lose the bone density. So this is, I think, foundation laying. If I had to say what Pilates is, the dancers have already proved this. If you want to dance, you got to do this Pilates. If you want to keep moving, you have to have some type of movement stabilization stretching method. And
go ahead.
And I think the appeal for me with Pilates is that it's a unified method. The first time I've heard of something like Pilates was Kelly Starrett's book. And, you know, I looked through Supple Leopard and it promised to me what Pilates promised, right? We're all trying to go after this mobile, long, supple thing. For me personally, the method was too complicated. I didn't get it. I had to have a voodoo band here and a kettlebell here. And then you just got like this crazy graveyard of tools, you know, and you just don't know what to do or what to apply. And I'm not saying Pilates is above that, but for me, what's attractive about it is that it gives what Kelly Starrett can give. It's just movement, right? Anyone can give these things, but it's a unified, solid method. You learn one exercise and you work on that one exercise, and it harnesses the power of all those things in that one exercise. And then it's got an element of strength, resistance, rep. I just like that rep I like that rep thing, man. I like it. I like reps. I like feeling the muscle burn. I like passing out after it's like a crazy deep lactic acid buildup. It's got all the things I like, you know, so it's the one for me, right? And I think there are many for many people, but it's the one I've kind of taken to. And I think it's unknown amongst our community. It's completely unknown.
The cool thing I think is like Mark, I'm curious your thoughts too. One thing that I've thought about with how I've progressed personally is like I've done a lot of lifting and my body felt good. Started jiu-jitsu, my body felt but as I started to, you know, work on doing a lot of longer range things, because of the dynamic aspect of jiu-jitsu, your body gets in a bunch of weird positions that typically through daily life you'll never get yourself into. You'll also never get yourself into those positions in the gym. But getting there, now my body feels better than ever. I'm getting to all these ranges of motion.
You think it's magic or something.
But the only reason is because I'm getting to these different positions. Now with Pilates, the only load is the springs on the reformer. And that's a good amount of resistance. But I think that obviously anybody can strength train. But what is the thing that can allow a person to move in all of these different ranges of motion? what else could there be? There could be jujitsu, but some people don't want to fight somebody on a daily basis. Pilates. It's like it's a great fucking option.
And I think the appeal for Pilates too, like, is it's a low barrier to entry, not financially. I won't say that, but the low barrier to entry of, all right, where are you? What's available? If you got nothing, so one of the parts of my practice I have to do is I have to observe mad hours. I see all types of people, dude. Oh, I see the bodies. I mean, you see all ages, all types, and you get to, I've never, how do I say this? You don't get to look at like an old person's toes up close. Pilates allows you to sort of have this like, how's yours move? How's your ankle move? How's your this move? And so you see all these bodies in all these positions. And the exercise and the method starts you at, I think, the simplest. Lay down horizontally. That's where the method starts. Let's breathe. Let's get your rib cage in place. Anyone can start there. And you'd improve from just breathing, right? The data on breathing is like, come on. It's like gravity, right? It's not some theory. You can change your reality through deep breathing. But most people don't even know where to start. They don't know how to access these muscles. And I think a lot of people would dream to bodybuild, would dream to do jiu-jitsu, but they can't have access because they don't have those things available. They're fragile, they hurt easy, and they've almost lost their function, right? That great function that you once built up to about 6, 7 years old, you instantly lose it the second you start sitting at that desk in school, Like you lose it right away. They sit you in that chair, and it's like, welcome to the rest of your degradation, right? Like, welcome to, we have to be institutionalized, right? You just can't have us out here swinging on trees all day. We've done enough of that in our past. It's time for a new thing. So I think what it does is that it makes you say, all right, get like a monkey. We've been seeing this, right? Capoeira, flow. There's been a lot of things that I'm not saying Pilates is the only method, but I guess what I am testifying is you have to have one if you want to remain, right? It doesn't matter if it's a combination of what we call colloquially the mobility stuff here in America, right? I think it's all Kelly Starrett's stuff. I think Kelly Starrett's the Joseph Pilates of the method, basically here, right? There's been many, and there will continue to be more. This is just an old method that a certain group have taken up, and I think it's quite ridiculous that more people don't know about this, right? It's like, it's exercise. Like, we should have these. It'd be like if we didn't know about calorie counting or something, right? It's like this thing exists, it's real, and we should at least apply a little bit of its tools, of its pieces. So
it's kind of hard, unless you do, like franchise something, or you do like what CrossFit did,
right?
Excuse me. I think it can be difficult to get people to follow like a method or a technique in particular. Like with Starrett just laid out like, here's what you do if your IT band hurts. You take this lacrosse ball, you put it here. Here are these methods. He talked about hydration and sleep and the importance of lifestyle and those things too. But I don't know what other way you can do it. 'Cause I think you do have to make it like a program.
Right.
And maybe that's one of the errors of Pilates is that it's almost maybe in some weird way, it's almost maybe like maybe too available or not available enough. Like as if one combination of the two. I don't know what the answer would be. I don't know how to like solve for that problem, but you see with a company like Functional Patterns, like there's a reason why a lot of stuff's hidden behind a paywall, is to have certain practitioners be able to teach it in a very particular way and to kind of try to keep a lid on some of the stuff that they know and some of the stuff that they do.
Yeah. And, I think that's just part of obviously we have to make a living, capitalizing off information. But I think one thing that I've grown really hip to is just awareness of a thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've seen our America change just on awareness in the past, 10 years, like crazy changes, and I think just being aware of something, it makes a big difference. So kind of to answer that, I think there's so much more though, that at least with Pilates that I've found, that goes into a method, right? If a method doesn't have a culture, people are less likely to show up, right? I'm less likely to use the lacrosse ball if I don't have my buddies using lacrosse balls, right? And I think that's what jiu-jitsu does really well. Every time I talk to people about jiu-jitsu, I hear all of the great physiological benefits and things, but the thing that I keep coming back to is they say community. brotherhood, and they keep coming back to that. And so I think for people to exercise, everyone needs something different. Some need accountability, some need community, some need. And so for me, I say, thank God there's more than just Pilates, right? Because let's say, you're right, it's hard. I think part of the issue with Pilates is teaching it. You have to have, generally, you got to be smart. You got to know where the pelvis is in space, right? You have to know basically the whole body to teach it. So there's a mad shortage of people who are capable of teaching it. But the way I've been looking at it is that if you can even get some of these elements down to people, right? If you can even introduce them, like I said, what is the relationship between your humeral head and your scapula? What is the relationship? What is the relationship of your midline, right? So for me, it's like maybe I can use this practice to take some pieces of it that are universal. This is just muscle and body and joint, and tell these to people and teach these to people. So that's kind of the direction I'm going with it. And many have tried, I'm sure, but I haven't met anyone who speaks my particular jargon and does Pilates. Most people who do Pilates speak dance. So they use a lot of visualization. They say, lift up like a pearl, a spring, a string of pearls. Like I never seen a string of pearls before when I heard that. And I was just like, I didn't get it, and I missed a lot of things because of the world that they live in versus the world I live in. The world I live in is knees out, tight. That makes sense to me, And so I'm trying to figure out how to take the jargon. And, if you wanted to be a lawyer, you got to speak law, dude. That's the way it goes. And that's what it is in Pilates right now. And I think that's the biggest barrier to entry is the language. You just would go there and you just wouldn't get it. It just doesn't make. They don't use it. They don't ever talk about biceps. They don't even. They call things so differently. So in Pilates, for instance, in bodybuilding or anybody, right? When you think of the core, you generally think of abdominal wall, obliques, spine, stuff like that. In Pilates, they call this the powerhouse, right? So your powerhouse starts basically at your scapula, at your shoulders, right? So this is for Pilates where my first source of power starts. And we know that from a bench press, right? There's a crazy amount of power in this system right here, right? And we also know from the lifts, right? There's a crazy amount of stability through the core. There's a lot of power here. So in Pilates, the focus is to see your body differently. So I would see myself moving as one unit from my all the way from how I open up this collarbone here all the way down to my glutes. So these start moving as one unit. So when I bodybuild, I think of legs on legs day. I think of delts on delts day. But Pilates kind of teaches you to get them all in a function, and you can feel them differently and you move differently. And I think the word I keep coming back to is the way I've mapped my body and my brain is changing. No miracle has happened. I'm not getting some crazy, it doesn't exist, right? The only miracle is drugs. That's the only miracle we have in the world of fitness. Like testosterone is a miracle. It's unbelievable how good testosterone works. It's unbelievable, and nothing works that good. Nothing works that well, like a hormonal change. So, I think it's applying proper movement. And if you're interested in saying, I've always had this problem. So I ran track, and I would always feel like a lower back tighten up. Then when I would lift, I would always feel like maybe it was an SI thing. And I would always see these repeating problems that I had. And I didn't know that I just didn't know how to call on that group. Though I was very strong in the glute and very strong here, they can either be one or two things. A ticking time bomb to bad reps, and I think eventually an injury from missing on things. Or I think the second thing is that you just end up saying, oh, I got a bad something, and the truth is it's not bad. You're just moving it poorly, and it's perfectly healthy. It's not an injury. You're just continuing to move it poor. So I think slowing down, moving a thing correctly is the ultimate practice. It doesn't have to be Pilates. It's just the art of slowing down and moving things correctly, so to speak. So
I just want Andrew to pull up some photos from when you were like bodybuilding lean. But also, when you mention testosterone, people are going to think that you're like you were on testosterone or something. You're not. On.
People are going to. Well, here's what I say. Okay,
you never have been either.
Here's the thing that I say about natural bodybuilding, and this is completely honest about natural bodybuilding, because there are no drugs in natural bodybuilding. The means are more unnatural than anything I've ever seen. I'm talking suitcases full of tuna, suitcases full of rice. I'm talking decking out. Dude, like my hotel right now is like, it's like decked out with like it's like got bands here, this here. Like you're like a traveling circus when you do this. The way I track my food, I have a jewelry scale. My brother calls it a dope scale. I got a jewelry scale when I travel. There is nothing natural about the means of as to how I apply. I'm nothing like you. I don't live anything like you, right? Like if you ever saw how unnatural any of this is, drugs are the last thing you should. It's nothing, right? Yeah. The method that the natural bodybuilder takes, the protein, the carbs, the meal timing, the sleep. It's the most unnatural way to live for an unnatural effect. But it's drug free. That's the best word for it, right? I wouldn't call it I just naturally look like that. I don't. I'm obsessive. It drives people to eating disorders even at some times too. So yeah, that's the result of thinking about nothing else but how to look like this in a photo.
Power Project Family, we talk about beef and meat all the time on the podcast. That's why we've partnered with certified Piedmontese beef. But did you know this? That 85% of all grass-fed, grass-finished beef in the United States is imported from other countries? 85%.
Damn.
But certified Piedmontese is made in the U.S. of A.
America.
Fuck yeah. So go out and get some of the best tasting, some of the leanest, some of the best beef from Piedmontese. Andrew, how can they get it?
Absolutely. So you guys can head over to cpbeef.com and at checkout enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Again, cpbeef.com. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Fuck yeah. Just wish the legs were in this one, man. People got to see those legs, bro.
I did it this morning, dude. Oh, look, that's Cleveland Tom.
Cleveland Tom. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So I was with him in the overall at this show. Dude, this was back in the day when shows used to have like 25 guys, you know, in your class.
Damn.
And you had to beat that class back in the day. And so I found that in these poses. Oh, you gotta look at this side of the purple trunks, dude. This I think was one of my best forms that I had. One of my better looks. I liked how full, dry I was. I think I was 181 in these. I'm 5'7" for reference. Yeah, I like this look a lot. This was a good look. Yeah,
shoulders are crazy,
dude.
It's all lies. You take that rear delt, right? You take that rear delt and you smash it against that rib cage, and you open that chest. It's all just it's unnatural to me. It's all illusion. And of course, if someone sees this, they're gonna say unbelievable. And yeah, of course, it's unbelievable. It is. It's unbelievable.
It takes a lot of dedication. Takes a lot of time. With the meal prep.
Dude, it feels. It doesn't feel like that. If it's for you, it doesn't. It never felt that way. It just felt like, what else am I gonna do? It just felt like what I wanted to do. I watched on the flight here. I was watching this David Bowie concert, this Ziggy Stardust concert, and it was good. It was like a 90-minute, and then after like 40 minutes, he was playing music, and I said, I'd be tired of playing music by now. He's just like doing the David Bowie thing, and that's his gift. This is my gift. I can do this all day. I'm interested in it. It gets me. I get it, and this is my gift. So I think to say, natty or not natty, it's I don't know. It is what it is, dude. But if you try to live a boot camp like lifestyle and against all your thoughts and beliefs, and dude, there's so many temptations that come just in the day with what we do. The time you wake, the first temptation, the time you wake up, you're always thinking, oh, I could just do this real quick. There's always constant temptation to not do it. So yeah, I think it's for people who love a process.
Jesus, those hammies are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, your legs are wild, man.
I'm not as big as I used to be. I'll say that.
Do you still do traditional movements? Are you still benching, squatting, deadlifting?
Bread and butter, baby. To the day I die. There's nothing like it. I've done a lot of things that I have done that has been different. I isolate more because I found like most people, I have a lot of asymmetrical things going on, and I find that I give things sort of a better. How do I say? Focus is split. Like. If I give my right arm a little bit and give my left arm a little bit, I think they train with a different focus. And I don't know. I feel that takes longer, but I think if you have the time for isolated training, like you can really get a better focus on a smaller piece. That row you were showing me earlier today, right? Much better than a 2-arm row in a pen lay in any day, right? In my opinion, if you can really say what's going on with this lat. Am I not turning? Am I not opening? And you treat it as an investigation, right? When I go in the train, I take a journal, I draw pictures, I take notes. I say, okay, so this, how does this pulley work? I don't think of it as so much as me getting my pump on, but how does this machine work? And I haven't been able to be interested in anything else as much as I'm interested in this. That's really where it falls for me. So, and Pilates just broke the whole thing for me. It's like, it's like jiu-jitsu. You're a white belt. You're a movement white belt. And I'm just trying to, before I return back to the dust, say, can I really and truly, if this is my passion, say all skeletal muscle, I can at least wink it. I can at least say, hey, right? I may not be a master of the movement, but at least I can say, oh, I know how to do it. And so for me, that gives me life. That just gives me a joy. That's like, yeah. Plus you feel better.
In Pilates, like in the teaching of it, are they against certain types of movements? Are they against like lifting or doing other stuff outside of it?
Okay, so this is back to the hazing part that I was telling you about, right? Every time this is not everyone, right? But they in the Pilates world, dude, like they don't know anything about like bodybuilding, right? They'll be like, "What's that one thing you kind of pull down thingy?" Like, and I'm just like blown away. I'm blown away that they don't know. They know how the body moves, but it goes to show like the school that you're trained in is really and truly how you think about the body, right? They have like zero knowledge of weight, strength, and conditioning. I guess like if you're a dancer, your strength and conditioning is Pilates. The same way that if you're a football player, a basketball player, your method is strength and conditioning. So there's no reason for me to do Pilates. It wouldn't be sensible. So I find that a lot of people hate the bulk in Pilates, and I'm obviously generalizing. The word that they use in Pilates is long, lean muscle, right? Long lean, right? That's a problematic 90s word, right? But when I think they say long lean, and I'm trying to always translate the words they use, what Pilates does is that it works the eccentric and concentric equally, right? So I think instead of just stretching a lazy passive lat on a lat pull, you actually work from the bottom of the lat. You push it up, right? The same way how like on a deadlift, there's no eccentric portion. But on a squat, you have to put strength into the eccentric portion, and you have to control, and the concentric on the way up. Pilates is the same method, right? It's a compound exercise. So, but it calls on different things. It might call for your thoracic to do so. It all the combinations come at you crazy. And then once you get it, once you can extend, once you can flex, he'll say, okay, now flip over. We're going to change your center of gravity. Now get on your neck. We're going to change this. So he continues to change your center of gravity in the same challenge. You'd get this from jiu-jitsu, right? It's literally rolling, right? You're moving through space, finding how to make that connection. And you find that sometimes when you're, they call it quadrupeding with Pilates on all fours, you have a harder time working the spine in flexion versus when you're on your back, anyone can do a sit up and flex up, right? So you find you're weak at different levels of gravity. And I think it's drawn board blueprint stuff. And once you get that down, you go back to the gym and let's say you grab that bar to deadlift, and then you say, oh, I can now sense where my pelvis is centered. I can now sense that I got some lordosis, right? You actually can map yourself. You become your own doctor just by feeling. The same way that if you were walking funny, you'd say, I'm walking funny today, right? And you become more aware of everything. To me, it's high level muscle connection. What's the word we use in bodybuilding? Mind-muscle connection, right? But it goes deeper. It goes to the diaphragm. It goes all the way deep as possible. Everything except the tongue in Pilates, I think it trains. Literally everything. That's like the only skeletal muscle that has no, but I don't know why you would need tongue training anyways. So.
Oh, well, you know.
Hey, to each his own. You never know. You never know too, so.
Do you, because you're doing Pilates and stuff like that, like do you stand differently? Do you different posture when you go to pick something up off the ground? Do you have different thoughts about it now?
Okay, so I think it's twofold answer. The one that's been most impressive to me that I did not anticipate was my reflex ability. I don't drop anything. If I drop something, I'm like my awareness in space is now better.
Yeah.
As opposed to like one day we had this crazy Chicago wind storm come in. And I had this little mini grill outside, and there was no propane on it, so it was light. It's these things, and they blow away. So it was blowing. I was outside trying to get all the stuff, and this was like probably a year before Pilates. I went to grab it, and my shoulder, dude, it just gave me like the craziest pain for like probably like a month and a half. It's just undiagnosed, goes away, work around it.
Yeah.
That was my way of life before Pilates, right? Now I can get an answer, right? Andrew's been saying earlier, he said, I don't know. You just don't know. You're ignorant, right? And so what I think the method does is says, this is your scapula. It literally, it's like it's a live living anatomy, right? So my ability to have better reflexes subconsciously has been one, and then I think the second thing is that I'm not better. My posture is not better at all, right? But what I am more aware of is when it doesn't feel correct, right? So at least I'd say I'm more in a corrective mode every 10 minutes.
You have more of an awareness.
I'm aware. I'm more aware of the muscle. And I just don't think there's any greater gift to that than to the athlete, right? Is because we do our thing. It's actually live for how long is actual training, peak training? An hour, half, right? It's warm up, cool down on the way, mostly 2 hours sometimes if you're really trained. And everything outside of that depends on how you slept on the shoulder. How you sat, how you did things. And I think it's those off hours. It's like nutrition, right? How you treat the body off, how you eat the body when you're off the clock. Those are actually more important than anything else. So I think that's the other thing it's done for me. It's made me be hip to what's what, where's what. Now if I have a long shift of emails, right, I'm not just like, what? My shoulders are not rounding forward. I'm more aware. And I think that's been the greatest thing. So like I said, it hasn't made me do anything miraculous. It's just made me have less bad reps. If you can stop, jamming on your brakes, and if you can stop making those rough turns, the car will last longer, right? I think bad reps has been like, that's one of the things Kelly Starrett said, is that if you do this a million times wrong, it's gonna go on you. It is eventually we're like machines. It'll go on you. So I think the practice of saying what is proper, where is pelvis neutral? What is pelvis neutral? And you never get the words for it. You just feel it. You feel it and you get it. And I think that's where the power lies, is that it gets in you. It's not a talky practice. It's one that you get in, you lock in, and it just becomes, I can't say it anymore, a foundational layer to the house that you're trying to build for anything you want to do. So,
what about your thoughts about the way that you might lift in the gym, or the way someone else might lift in the gym? Has your interpretation of that changed? We're talking about occasionally bad reps versus good reps, but maybe there are no bad reps if the weight is appropriate, or depending on the exercise, or where do you sit with that?
Right. So I kind of, to prelude that answer, I think bad reps, when I define a bad rep, let's say something as simple as a bicep curl, right? Like there's two heads on this bicep, right? When we curl it, some people really favor squeezing maybe the outside, and then that front delt, they'll lift it up a bit. Bad rep, right? As opposed to a proper rep. We all know how to do a proper bicep curl, right? Keep to the side of your body, lift the bicep. But I think the issue is a lot of people don't have that strength yet, right? So a Pilates exercise would say like, okay, just lay down. Just lay down. And we'll grab some springs, right? And with the springs, you'll put your arms as close as you can to the side of your body and slowly extend your triceps all the way through. And then they'll say, that is how you properly extend your tricep. So when you go back to do your tricep extensions, let's say, so to speak, right? You know where to grab it. I was just grabbing a rope, I was just grabbing a handle, so you can grab it in a better place, just like benching. You grab it in a better place. You say, all right, well, I need that inside head to do a little more work on the bottom here, and I need to make sure that this hand stays over when I do the press. So I think the awareness of doing something slow and steady, you crawl in Pilates, and then when you go to lift, you say, now I can walk. So I think that's what I mean by bad reps. And then the second thing, a real answer that I realize is, there is no such thing as an isolated movement. Maybe predominantly the movement exists to stimulate bicep the most, or it exists to stimulate delt the most. But these things all exist, right? Our bodies don't have air. They're tight spaces. It's dark, it's tight, and there's no room. Our bodies are like New York City, right? So if that delt moves, you're affecting its neighbor, and that neighbor is affecting its neighbor, right? So one term that I've been using when I teach people, and what I've been saying with my reps in bodybuilding and that Pilates helps, is be more generous with the muscle. I feel like getting tight, you also get very stingy. So if you were to go and do a lateral raise, right, you can start thinking about the delt, and you sort of start doing this delt thing. Right, you back away, you curl away, as opposed to Pilates would say, how does the scapula actually work, right? All things laterally generally work kind of behind the ear. Open the chest, open the collarbone, right? The collarbone rotates from here, and if we were to lift the arm, this collarbone has to be raising, and it rotates from the sternum. And this sternum is where my T1 lines up, right? So now you have some awareness of where your back should be. You're not bending thoracically here, right? So what it does is that it takes my positions and it makes them all better. And so now when I go to lateral raise, I start the weight over. I would say, where anatomically? It's not even about Pilates. Where anatomically does the shoulder move? Where does it work? And now instead of thinking delt, do anything and duck away to do the delt, I follow the appropriate rules of anatomy, and now I can lift that delt up more gracefully now. I can be more generous with using this lat under here. I can be more generous with allowing my lat that wraps all the way to nearly to my glutes behind me to work. I can let my trap be more generous, and I can reach in there. So I think you tighten up when you don't know how to move a muscle. You think bicep, you think quad, and you're thinking too limited, right? It's a system that's moving. We are a moving machine. There is no one isolated thing. So if you're going to hit that delt, hit the delt, but know that there's a whole gang all the way from your midline, all the way from your abdominals, all your serratus is getting involved in this movement, right? And we don't think about it like that because, it's too complex. It's a body, and so I think that's the biggest thing for me is being more generous, allowing what's around that supporting group to work as well too, as well as finding the proper positions in bodybuilding. Now, I will say this, a huge caveat. All of the spinal things in Pilates do not apply to powerlifting, right? Because they put you in a lot of unsafe positions, right? And that's why, so for instance, Valsalva doesn't exist in Pilates. It exists in weight training. It's a needed method in weight training, right? You have more weight, you need more internal stability. What Pilates has instead of Valsalva is a moving breathing system, right? So on certain movements, I would say inhale on the up, exhale on the over, right? So you're getting that intra-abdominal pressure just through a different means. It's the same system. It's just it's like a different language, French instead of English, and it yields something it's kind of different. But the rules, I think, are muscular, skeletal muscle rules. That's the one thing that I can't get over is that those same rules apply. It's like when you go to a different place, and sure, they live a completely different type of life in China, but they're still just trying to take care of their kids and go to work. They're still doing the same thing, though it's in Chinese. It's just a different world. So that's kind of how I've taken to it, and it's been interesting. It's been interesting. My goal is to kind of get it and translate it over to a language that's understandable for the strength and conditioning community. Because the dance language is beautiful. They've done a great thing at upholding this practice, but no one can speak it. I couldn't understand a word they were saying. They would say, move your side body and lift and move. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it. It's like, say, tell me what to do with my lats. Tell me what, I was looking for body, for body parts. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. So we now have this crazy studio that we have, my fiance and I, and we're just, I don't know. I just want to introduce it to people. Like, that's all. That's my only goal for now. I coach full time, so my coaching it's been great, and I love writing programs. But Pilates puts me in this weird sort of a student position again. I'm sort of the master when people come to me online, and it's boring. It's boring to have all the answers. It's boring to just be changing macros all the time. And I need to work, right? I need to work. And I love coaching, but Pilates is like an extra. I call it my golf. I think I'm entering my golf years, right? Just getting out and spending a ton of money on something else, and just going golfing, man.
You said what is the average financial barrier of entry for Pilates?
Okay.
I'm curious about that.
All right. So the average Pilates instructor, right? Like, okay, it's like massage. How much would you expect to pay someone who knows about the body? At least
$75 usually.
Massage. There you go, right? And you know how many hours it takes to train. You start adding those hours up, and you're like, oh shit, I got a $500, bill from this method. It's kind of crazy.
It's interesting because is it a lot, or have we just undervalued how much we pay for like a gym membership?
I think, and I think that's an interesting.
Maybe
point.
somewhere in between, right?
I think it's more of a market answer, honestly, right? I think if more people, if more people buy knee sleeves get cheaper. You know, I think it comes down to that simple market idea. And I think with Pilates, I don't know how accurate it is, but I just recently looked up the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, and I think there's only 14,000 Pilates instructors in this country.
Really?
And that's it. There's not a lot. Well, how many dancers do you know? Right? Generally, people who enter Pilates are dancers. And I'm really speaking generally. Obviously, the tide is changing now. Look at me. You know, I'm over here talking about it. And so I think that's it. It's a rare practice. I think Joseph did a strange way of saying, here's my master student, and everyone has to come from this one seed. And I think that limited the spread of the knowledge and slows the spread of the knowledge. I think it keeps it pure, but it's hard to commercialize. So they have some things going on now. There's a gym called Club Pilates, and they're doing a version of Pilates that they use all the equipment, and they're kind of doing it in a class structure, but you're not getting one-on-one, right? It'd be like doing group jiu-jitsu only or group powerlifting only, which is kind of like a European style of training. You know, the trainer kind of just goes around and helps everyone kind of lightly. And I think it's effective, but the depth is what gives you the results in anything muscular. You know, it's like why a chiropractor or PT says, come back for 36 sessions, right? There's something about, what is it? It's volume, frequency, and specificity. Those are the muscle rules, you know, and if you show up once or twice, it's not going to work. So I think the shortage of people overall, the availability of good instructors, and I think that the way the method was spread, it was spread in sort of like this martial arts dancer secret world type thing. But I think it's spread, and I've been seeing a lot of Pilates. It's obviously got to me, so it must be spreading, you know, so yeah, I think that's the issue. I think that's basically the issue. Not enough people, and because of that, if sometimes, dude, I see a lot of Pilates instructors, just being the only Pilates instructors within like 100-mile radius, they're successful. They don't even have to be good. They're just the only one doing it. It's like the old town doctor back in like the dusty Western days, you know. Like, so yeah.
Yeah.
What you got, Andrew?
I'm curious, maybe just like accidentally when you're traveling or just out and about and you're, like I said, accidentally observing people, do you see the way people move and you think like, oh man, if I had a chance to get him on the reformer or maybe do something, because you can probably tell like they're hunched over, something's hurting. Do you see things differently that way? And you're like, I bet you I could probably help this person because...
No. The way I see it is like, okay, number one killer in this country is heart disease, right? Like, people just got to lose weight, you know? Like, there's none of this is sensible if it doesn't matter if you can move well, you know, if you have the whole domino effect of the other ills of being overweight and obesity. So I think for me, I see Pilates more as a gateway of like, if you would like to get healthy, if you would like to ultimately lose that weight, get moving. I'm not saying Pilates is the only way to move, but maybe it's for the first 6 months, don't even worry about your weight. Just worry about trying to open up that knee. Just try to open up that shoulder. Just try to open these things back up again. And that can get you to something that burns more calories, like maybe running again one day for 10 minutes. If you can figure out how to stabilize that knee and not have sway back and figure out these small things. So I see it more as a gateway to something to help the ultimate cause. I don't look at people and think I would, no. I think when I look at people, I think most of these people don't even know about like nutrition yet. Like, so yeah, I'm not gonna act like Pilates is some cure when we know that you can just, it's calories in, calories out, man. We're still on that for the most part. So no, but I do look at people and I think like, how did it get so bad, right? Like I see some kyphosis people and they're just like, right? I see how bad the spine can get, right? I see in a lot of Black people in particular. Black people got, for no reason, massive glutes, just these massive glutes that do all the work. And then it just pulls their lower back like up, right? So that lower ab just sinks down and that butt does all the work and you just see them just like this, right? And so I think like, oh man, if you could just snap that pelvis up, just snap that. I do, but no, people just got to lose weight, dude. That's like, if everyone just got healthy, I don't even think Pilates would be an issue. You know, if we just kind of lived more walking and, you know, that's the basis. So if anything, ironically, my approach has been for you for us high level idiots, for us who want more and more and more and more and more. So I think I think the dancer has figured that out, right? If you're high level, if you do ballet, here's something that's going to take you. It's going to take you to be at least aware. I'm not saying it's going to promise you're vertical, but at least you'll be aware of how to call upon that hip, extend the hip properly, extend the glute properly, reach up properly. So I think that's the promise of it, is its potential more than anything. And I think people just gotta get healthy first, man. That's huge, I think.
But when it does come to movement, though, are you saying that Pilates can be like a step one for somebody? Like, let's say they're like, okay, I know I need to work on the diet. These guys on the podcast keep talking about walking. Okay, I'm going to start doing that. But maybe I want to get back in the gym. But man, everything kind of hurts.
Yeah.
So you're saying Pilates could be that step one?
I think yoga could be that step one too. Just any mind body moving, anything, right? I think, and like I said, I think Pilates is one of the many methods. There's many methods out there. But I think if you have trouble moving and you haven't been pushed in a while, I think Pilates is great because, dude, it's not easy. It's muscle. It's muscles burning. It's not easy at all. And they take you to where you're available. So there are some. So my coach Kim, she's just taking me like under her wing. She's like a dancer, and like I saw her the other day, and I walked into the studio, and she said, "My baby," and she's like a total dance mom. You know what I mean? And it kind of feels good to have that in my life again. I haven't had that coach in a while, And so, anyways, she's like. She'll take me and just whoop me at my level to where I need to be. She'll drill me. She'll ask me questions in a session, and she's hard on me. And then I watch her with someone who, well, these are Pilates communities too, right? Most Pilates communities have to be in some busy metro. Sacramento's got Pilates, right? It has to be 300,000 people or more to have Pilates, right? It's got to have some people there, right? Like it's got to be a city, and so. You get all types of people. So the people I see her work with, these people are working on sitting and standing sometimes, right? These people are just working on just sitting up. And dude, she's so bad. The way she'll do it, like she'll trick someone. So she'll start them laying down, and she'll start them like on the reformer, and then she'll just say like, you saw how they were grabbing sort of the ropes with some tension. She'll put a light tension, and you're laying horizontally, and she'll just say, okay, just open your arms and just do some snow angels and just get it down. And she'll maybe work through like 3 reps of this, and the person gets confident. And then on the 5th one live, she'll say, now exhale and look at your belly button, get your chin to chest. So this person's like pushing down and they're like curling down and they're working, right? So I think the thing about Pilates is that you can start with something like stretching or just small ranges of motion. And at any given point, you can put the work on them or you can take the work off. I think that's the beauty of the method, is that the dial is very smooth. It's not a switch. Like bodybuilding is on, off versus Pilates. You get some things that are just stretching. You get some things that are just all work. So I think that's the beauty of it, right? You get some stabilization, some stretching. You get a lot of stamina, a great deal of stamina.
Let me ask this real quick. On the stamina side of things, how many reps I know it's different for everybody, but when you say reps on reps and reps, what are we talking about?
Oh, dude. All right. I got this video in the mat videos. It's the first exercise. It's called the 100. This is they call this the warm-up exercise. So the 100 is a pretty straightforward exercise. So I did this yesterday at the hotel, actually. And so what you do, and you can't see my feet too well, is that you lift your feet and you lift your head, and my belly button is down into the floor. I'm down to the floor.
I'm already mad.
That
would piss me off.
In my arms, I'm pumping my arms 100 times. 5 breaths, I inhale in deeply. 5 breaths, I exhale out deeply. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, and you're working, and you get the pumps harder. So as I move my arms, I may start to feel it maybe from my chest, but as I grow deeper and deeper and deeper, I'm curling in deeper. So you almost see I'm hollowing out my rib cage. My ribs are totally down to the ground. So this is a warm up. This is a stamina exercise. It's a breathing exercise, and it warms up your core, right? So this is the first. It's called the 100.
I don't know if I want to do Pilates anymore,
dude. How do I say
the warm up?
Hey, that's the warm up. That's the warm up. And then play them all quickly. Play the roll. So the roll up is next. So this is Joseph's order, and the next is the roll up, right? So you do that, and so you start with like 5 flexion exercises. So for the roll up, you see I'm trying to get up with clearly without moving my heels as much as I can. And you see when I go down, I'm controlling it with my rib cage. My rib cage is taking me down, right? So that's the roll up. Play the next one. And then you do the roll over. And so once you get nice at this, he says, all right, well, let me continue to cook you a little bit. So for the roll over, you lay down, arms flat, and then you curl the pelvis up and over. Try not to throw the hips over. Throw it up and over. You separate the legs. And then coming down, you exhale and control that spine down, all the way down to your start position. No flaring the ribs, no popping the ribs. Legs back together. You squeeze that midline, come back up, roll over. So these are mat exercises. There's 34 mat exercises, and they work you all the way completely. And so you can see some versions like this. So Andrew, if you can go to those reformer videos, actually. And so these basic ideas, they start to roll over into, let's see, Matt. Yeah, reformer. So they start to roll over into the reformer. So play that first one, actually. So this is the same exercise that we've been talking about, that footwork, right? So this is that first position. So you remember the same things that I was doing on the 100 with getting my belly button down to the spine, right? So at the bottom of this reformer, there's spring tension, right? I'm staying dorsiflex. I'm trying to keep that ankle as high as I can. I'm trying to keep that knee stable in space. I'm trying to keep my hip stable. And I'm pushing with my ribs, so to speak, right? My ribs are doing the work here. It's not my legs doing the work. So
Wait, what do you mean? I'm watching this. So your legs aren't pushing? You're not pushing with your legs? Or your feet?
Well, obviously they have musculature in them, right? But what I'm pushing with is my lower ab all the way up to my xiphoid.
I see. I get it.
Yes,
I get it.
So think about this. Don't contract the abdomen. Do an eccentric on it. Lengthen it, right? And when you lengthen it, you take this rib cage here, and you corset it in. So you're hollowed out, right? So you should feel it from your xiphoid down in your chest all the way to your pubic bone, to the top of your penis almost, actually. And you should feel a complete contraction there, right? Yeah. And the temptation is to stop breathing because you're under pressure. Keep breathing. Inhale on the up, exhale on the down, and it's wicked, and they keep working it. I want to see if I can find 100 on here, but I don't know when it's uploaded. Scroll down a little bit. Let me see. Play that one. Yeah, play that one. So this is 100. The same thing that I was just doing for the warm-up. So this is kind of out of order. I just didn't do them right. So the more difficult your legs are out straight, your legs are out, obviously it's weight bearing and your center of gravity changes, right? So I got resistance in my hands and I peel up. I lower my legs from my lower ab, my head is peeled up, and I start pumping from my 100. So you see I got spring tension on now. So it's like having bands behind your arms. So this is always what's called the warm-up. So after footwork on a reformer and after the 100, you can start working, and it takes you to a variety of things. I want to show you that pulling straps. Go back up to one of those videos closer to the top. And so there's an order. And so let's go to pulling. Actually, play this one to the left where my feet are in the straps. So you can put your feet in straps and get a similar thing. So I'm following all the rules, and I'm working the range of motion in my hip socket, right? I'm tempted to, in this, maybe lean to one side. I'm tempted to lean to the left side. I'm tempted to flare my ribs up, right? So the whole thing is trying to get these muscles to work with complete control. And this is nothing new. We know how to squat and stay completely rigid throughout the squat. I've seen your plain face squat before. That's what you're doing. Except this is actually to move in a three-dimensional space, right? Play that one where I'm laying inverted. So this is pulling straps. So there's a whole series where he adds a prop, a box, and you can do things like pulling straps here. So I'm following all the things that I was just doing laying horizontally, but now I'm flipped over. So I was just pulling those straps this way, but now it changes my center of gravity and asks me to do a new thing. Let me see maybe like a split. Go down, to that standing side split right there. Yeah, that one's. So you start horizontally, and the better you get, you start moving vertically, right? You start going in handstands. You start going into splits. It leaves nothing untouched. The method.
That looks challenging.
Well, it's you got the pigtails going on now.
That's my Pilates hair. And you know I got that from? You know I got that from?
Where?
White girls.
Hey now.
Hey, I've been learning stuff, man. I've been learning stuff. It's not all Chicago with me, man. I've been learning stuff out here. So of course that split's got to come from your glute. That split's got to come from your glute. It's got to come from your midline, right? So on the reformer, like, so I haven't taken my final yet. So one of the things I have to do on the final is I have to play that one on the bottom corner, that one right there. So this is a rowing one. You saw her doing rowing. I have to do all these exercises in like 45 minutes, and there's like a trillion of them on the reformer, right? So you see, I'm keeping my spine stable. My legs are pointing long, and my arms reach long. So look at my scapula tucking down, 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 down. Keep the scapula down. Hold your breath. Take the arms out directly to the side. Try not to move the carriage, right? And then you come back home and you keep your spine lifted. So it's an opposition game. My spine is going this way within the rules. My legs are going this way, right? So I'm lengthening my body while I do something else, right? So it's a lot of isometrics with concentric movements and eccentric movements, all in different spaces, all in different ways. Let's see if we can get some of that a Cadillac movement. So you can. I just want to show you some of the different equipment. Actually, play this 945. This is called a long stretch.
And you got a ton of videos. It's awesome.
It's a bunch of dude. I got so much Pilates videos, right? So this is clearly a scapular movement. Right, you're in a plank. This is like the ab wheel. But remember how bad we all were at the ab wheel, right? But it's like an ab wheel. So he thought about this thing, right?
Yeah,
he thought about a way to do it quite some time ago, quite long ago, right? So like my glute can be tucked a little better there. You see, I'm poking out a little bit, so you get nicer as the practice deepens. And then when you magically go to do a rope pull down, you're like, ooh, that scapula feels where it's supposed to be. You feel it gliding all over your back, right? When you bring that thing forward, it should glide forward and go ahead. So let's see some Cadillac. Cadillac's a big dog, dude.
Which one's that?
Sorry, go back to the other folder. So there's Matt, okay, and Reformer. Those are the two most popular ones you see. And then this is Cadillac. So on Cadillac, you have a few different things you can do. So go down, let me see. Go to...
Let's see what it's called, Cadillac.
Go play. What is this last one all the way on the bottom? Okay, so Cadillac has this one tool called a push-through bar. So this is a bar with one spring. You see that spring on the side. And now I'm going to lift my hips, tuck my glutes, squeeze my thighs together, lift your thoracic up, and I'm holding my breath up there, inhaled. And then I exhale, jam that spine down, and I articulate one vertebra at a time, pull that lower ab in so I can pull my legs in, and I complete the exercise. And when you get nice at it, you add variation. You take one leg off and kick it back, right? And it keeps getting more wicked, more wicked, more wicked, and more wicked. It gets more difficult as time goes on. And then not only that, you can do simple things. Play that one in the middle, the 7-5 one. Let me see what this one is. So this is called a teaser. This is a famous mat exercises as well too, right? So this bar moves in sort of a 90-degree angle, 180 degrees on a fixed axis, right? So the bar is fixed. And then there's a spring tension here. So I squeeze my thighs together, get my chin to chest, lift my head up. And I have to be hollowing out and pulling out, getting out of my shoulders, right? And I stick this teaser. And then I have to exhale, control everything back down. This is similar to that rollover I did when I had to really control it back down. So the rub to Pilates is you start seeing the method make sense everywhere. It starts to become this cohesive thing. Play 7-7. I believe that's a sort of a side bed thing.
For all of you that are listening, sorry, you got to come to YouTube or go to Spotify.
You guys got to watch this. So this is two exercises in one. So this is me working just that armpit, right? The chest, the lat. You warm that up, you hold it, you stick that arm over. So once you get it warm, you stick it over, and then you reach and shrug over. So I'm in an opposition here. So this is fully depressed down here. This is raised. I'm split in my midline. And then I lift from the center. I lift from all the way from the pubic bone, and I stretch over and I reach over, right? While keeping solid tension in the shoulder. Usually when you get busy, you fuck around and say, I don't know what the shoulder's doing. And you just give up on it, or you shrug it, or you do something. So it teaches you under due stress. Don't stop the contraction, right? So this is a stretch exercise plus a contraction in one arm, plus squeezing together in the middle. So it asks you to do many things at once, and the only way you can get that, as you know, play 75, let me see what that is to do it over and over until it starts feeling like a flow, right? And that's kind of the whole idea. So this would be sort of like an introductory exercise that you would do on something like this. This is called a push-through bar. And so for a push-through bar, I'm working my C curve here, I'm tucking that pelvis, I'm curling that back in. And when you get nice at it, you can exhale big and don't move your position and curl even further. So you get back as far as you can in that C curve. And then when you're here in this dangerous position, he says, now duck your head, dive your head down forward, right? Control it back, control it up. And so you learn all these new abdominal skills. This is no different than doing a bicep curl, or it's just muscles, man. It's just muscles, dude. You know, it's not foreign to me. I think at first your eyes look at this and think, you know, it's just some really strange. I'll play 841. So this is sort of a finisher, and this is what you see a lot of girls post in Pilates. So this is another piece that they have in Pilates, right? So after you're done, you do a finish. So this is like a half hang to a full hang, right? So you see my sacrum is just lifted, right? I'm just simply hanging. So the method ends with these therapeutic like finishers. So after you get worked and stretched and pulled, he has all these crazy ways to kind of finish you, right? And then of course you can come out and you can go over, you can dive, and you can do a crazy number of things in Pilates, right? So it's just crazy. It leaves nothing undone, stretched or tightened or pulled from the footwork all the way to this. So let's see whatever I have. What's the other folder I have? So
how long does it take to go through one of these workouts?
So this is comprehensive, right? So you can do a Pilates workout in short as I've done 10 minutes, 8 minutes, you know. Sometimes I go for 2.5 hours. It's just what's available. It's what's available. So I get trained classically in an hour. But when I was like in school, you know, it'd be like 8 hours, you know, you're just doing Pilates all day. So play barrel. So these are the machines. So you have the mat, which is a floor. And this is actually one of my, so I'm an apprentice and I have to have apprentices under me. It's like a painter. It's the strangest thing. So I have to teach. So this is one of his inventions called a barrel, right? So for this, what I'm trying to kind of show with this guy I'm teaching is how to make that C curve. So you know when I was just kind of over that on that roll down bar and I was really putting that C curve and tucking my pelvis. Yeah. So now we flipped them over, right? We flipped this gravity over and we said, now use the actual length and size of this barrel to throw your rib cage, your rib cage over and actually learn how to get that curvature. So if you're missing something in an exercise, there's a machine or an apparatus that can teach you, right? So you see with him, I'm hands-on. So you got that black guy butt, right? You see how he wants to tuck it out. He wants to lose his lower ab. So I'm trying to get him to pull that lower ab up, pull his lower ab up, pull that pelvic bone up and curve over that barrel. So this is just an easy version of an extension over a barrel. And then barrel also has crazy shit like these are called ballet stretches, right? So you can literally grab onto the like the back of that ladder, put a leg up, and instead of simply hamstring stretches, you create some opposition. So I'm gonna curl my body forward, like I've been doing all day, and pull my hands back with my scapula down. And I'm pulling from that lower pubic bone, right? So this is just taking my spine and going like, it's just like putting on a crazy, because I'm pulling and I'm pulling. So my head is pulling and my arms are pulling. So it's a stretch of oppositions. So they all look like nothing. That's the thing about Pilates that gets me. It looks like nothing is happening, right? But there are these hidden strange muscles, right?
Power Project family, if you're trying to increase your muscle mass, if you're trying to lose body fat, if you're trying to stick to your nutrition plan, if you're trying to get fit, pretty much if there's anything you're trying to do for your health, we know that sleep is the biggest determining factor to help you get from point A to point B. That's why we've been sleeping on 8 Sleep mattresses for probably more than 2 years now. And the main reason is the technology behind the Pod Pro. Now, the Pod Pro is like the Tesla of beds. It will change its temperature based off of how you're sleeping during the night. And if you have a partner that's sleeping on the other side, they could have their own temperature settings. We all sleep hot here, and I used to wake up in a puddle of my own sweat. Gross. That doesn't happen anymore because of the 8 Sleep mattress, and I've been getting the best sleep of my life. Now, if you don't want to replace your mattress, you can just get the Pod Pro cover, and you can put that over your current mattress to get all the benefits of 8 Sleep. But if you also need to replace your old nasty mattress, you can get the Pod Pro cover and the 8 Sleep mattress. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject, and you guys will automatically receive $150 off of your order. Again, 8sleep.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
The one thing that I love about this, Ryan, is that I know that there are certain people who like look at this in strength conditioning and they're like, yeah, but there's what muscles are you working right there? What is that strengthening? How's this gonna make you fast? Right? Like, But the ability, again, for you to understand how to isolate these certain parts of your body, have one thing going in one direction, the ability to put everything together is what a majority of people are missing. If you watch bodybuilders move, and I hate kind of saying this because, again, I love bodybuilding.
Yep.
I love powerlifting. I love lifting. But the one thing that sucks is when you see these athletes move outside of the sport, it's a clunky thing.
Not beautiful.
It's a wobble.
You see it in their posing routines. You see it in
Yeah.
their posing routines. And this is not to condemn bodybuilders. It's just the tools that we use are too blunt to get grace and flow, right? The dumbbell, the barbell, the Cyvex machine, as lovely as I love the Nautilus leg presses, right? It's too blunt of an instrument. I lay down on it, I sit down on it, and I press. I'm never going to gain a relationship with those muscles, right? Muscles are all about relationship building, right? All of a body is a relationship building, right? These are organs, right? What are you doing for your heart health? Like, what's your relationship with? What's your knowledge of it? And so I think what this does is that it says, okay, you know about your arms and legs and chest. You know about that, right? And they have exercises for that, right? They help you deepen it. But you probably don't know anything of like, when does your lumbar start? Where does your thoracic end? Right? Like, and we just don't know anything. So I think what this does is that it maps you by specific movements to do the thing. I think the movements look more like what he's going after, what Joseph Pilates were going after. I don't think he was trying to make a movement. I think he was trying to answer the question, how do I access these things? And they came out looking funky like this. And the machines came out looking, what's the word they use in business? Form follows function, right? So it should look and manifest like what the goal in mind was originally. So I think that's what the practice is. And it looks a lot like nothing. It looks like nothing is happening, but I couldn't digest it. Like I said, my first session I did, even to this day, I just would just like break out into these crazy sweats, and I'll just be like, oh, and I didn't know what was hurting. I just knew, and then my teacher would be like, you got a pelvic floor in there. You got one in there, believe it or not, right? Like, I have no, how do I say it? Like, when we go through puberty, like, we have like, it's very easy for guys, puberty is all like, how am I going to gain status, social, sexuality? That's my whole vision. Like, women spend time inside when they go through this puberty process. They have to. They've got a whole internal working system. And I think they naturally get more hip to how does the pelvic floor work, right? How does my kind of body move, right? Like, women are like, they're more prone to how do I say it? Do womanly positions that a guy would never do. A guy would never, like that a guy would never be doing. And this is all nothing to do with the human body. The only difference between us is sexual organs and pelvis size. That's the only difference. A muscle's a muscle, man. So I think for me, I found this method and I said, these are muscles that I haven't trained. How can I call myself a professional at anything if I don't even know how to use these muscles, right? I may know how to use them on a squat, but how much am I squatting, right? Like, even if my frequency was 5 times a week, most of my life is not squatting, sitting, standing. Yeah. I'm not aware of it. So I think that's the beauty of the practice, is that it makes you become this one. How do I say it? You become a compound movement. You become the compound movement, right? You move as one. You stop thinking about glutes and this and that, and you start thinking about the unit. And so when I go to bodybuild, though I'm doing a leg press, right? I think, where are my hips, right? Is one hiked? Is one down? And I still think about pelvic, and then I have to add things. I got to do the Valsalva. It's I have to do all the things. So it's completely reinvented how I lift. And like I said, I'm still pretty new at this, so the fruit of it isn't ripe yet. But I imagine if I stick with it and try to come up with something practical to share this, I think prop and mat access to this and kind of explaining this will be best. So that's kind of been my current venture. That's what I've been doing the past few years. It's just reading and stop. I decided kind of like to stop posting too, because I felt like you kind of have to be in this position of like
learning.
Dude, it's just good to shut up and be a student for a little bit. It's been like the nicest thing. So I mean, obviously I'm here. I'm ready to kind of start talking about this, and so I'm excited. I'm excited. So yeah, this is the chair. We saw the chair too. This is me kind of teaching some of the stuff. You'll like this. This one's a little longer. So this one. So actually, what am I doing here? Oh no, hold on, let me see what I'm doing. Oh, he might go, is he gonna go up front? Okay, he's gonna go up front. Okay, so this is an exercise called going up front. We all know how to do a box step up. kind of, right? Everyone, if I said, get on the box and step up, you would have something. You'd have some sway. Pilates exists to eliminate that going up, right? So this could be effective for something that's going up on the stairs. So I place him in the center on the top of the chair, and he's got some spring assistance and he got some hand assistance, and I'm teaching him how to properly load all the way so his knee is even moving a bit. Load where does his ankle need to be? We do this when we squat. Where does his knee need to be? And where does he need to be in his hips, right? Sometimes when we do these, we sink into one side. We lean into one side, right? So this is going up front. So this gets him stable. So he's just working that one side. And then we add on more variation the more he starts to get the movement. So he's a student of mine, so he's getting better. So his head, his spine should be getting longer. He's a little curved in, right? So you see how when he took his arms off, he instantly dipped forward a little bit, right? So he's obviously got some learning to do. We're trying to get him to do it now with his arms off, and his balance is getting better. And so you can work on this stuff on the reformer with like those splits that I was doing. So it starts coming back all circular. So you get them to do this stuff, and then you get them to get more stable. And it's really miraculous stuff. So this guy I programmed for, I actually got my MBA with this guy. We went to school together. And I do his programming for strength and stuff. Then he was deadlifting, and he was, getting up to 400. And then he just said, my back, he's just missing stuff, and so we're getting them strong everywhere. That's my solution, right? So now we're going up, holding now. So now we're stable in the leg and doing some mountain climbers with the back leg, right? So now he's got to work that posterior segment. So you add on the challenge. And this guy's got look at his face. He's got to focus. It's scary, you know? And so, and that's sort of the idea. So I'd have him doing what I do. Lifting weights 5 times a week, training Pilates once a week, right? I train once or twice a week. So that's kind of what I've been up to, and that's kind of method. This is some smaller stuff. So look at this dorsiflexion, right? Teaching them how to get that heel high. The heel doesn't get high from the heel. It gets high from that insertion on the calf. Like the heel gets high all the way from the hamstring, right? That's where the muscle starts. Everything, the biggest rule in Pilates is everything in Pilates is proximal to distal. If you think you got to move something, it's got to move proximately. If you try to jump from your knees to distal, you've got to jump from here, hips up, right? It's got to be an explosive movement from center. And a lot of us have lost center. And I think that's what a lot of these things do. So I don't know what he wants to go on to do. If he wants to go on to, I don't know, it looks like he could do some with this move, but he can do it. So for me, I don't look at the method and think, you got to weak this, let me train your this, like the general PT approach. I have the Joseph Pilates approach, which is you're weak everywhere. You need to be strong. He was very intense. Like, you're weak everywhere. If you can't do it perfectly on the first try, he would call you weak.
No weak links.
No weak links. So this might be the last one. So this is, you can't see too good, but this is called, I forgot what it's called. There's so many exercises. But anyways, he's got his hand now stabilizing his knee. So we've cut some joints. So we cut some joints out. His back has stayed rounded, and he's just simply pressing down. It's called the soleus press. And he's pressing through his soleus. So he's trying to get those metatarsals on his foot to press and lengthen and press and lengthen just through the foot, just working the foot while holding his knee stable. So he's got some extra knee stability. And so for chair, reformer, we didn't even watch all the exercises I had. There's an endless number of exercises. Oh, and the names, dude. These names, for me, rows and biceps or rows and whatever. Dude, these names, long stretch, down stretch, elephant, seal, mermaid. Like, he named these things after a spirit that he was going after. He didn't name them after kinetically what he was trying to do. So whatever he felt was the gist of it, he named it. So everything that I do, it's still, like I said, it's still Joseph classical. You can look at a lot of other Pilates methods and they're conventional. They got a lot of new stuff. And as it should be, any practice should continue to grow. It's not 40, 50, whatever when he invented this stuff. So yeah, I'm glad we got to watch some of those.
Yeah. Cool. Reminds me of like Cador naming the movements after like an animal. Yeah, that's pretty dope.
And you have to think differently when it's that way, right? Like the command for shoulder press is simple, right? You think shoulder and man hears thoughts and words and he believes he understands. He understands not, right? There's so much more depth than just saying I'm taking my shoulder and I'm pressing. He couldn't be more wrong, right? It's like the first time we see anyone bench press. Everyone's got that story. I started with the bar. Right, you were unskilled. And this is the same thing. We're unskilled everywhere because Who trained you? Your parents? They taught you how to walk, you know, like your parents, your mom trained you, your mom trained your body. Like that's as far as we've taken it. And there's much more depth if interested. I don't think you need it. I'm not saying you need it, but it's movement. And if you apply movement to anything, it's miraculous, right? There's a whole medical field after this called PT. We know about the miracle of this. It's literally miraculous. So that's the practice. So like I said, you can do it on mat, all those machines. So I've bought all the machines. We went on this crazy like secondhand hunt. We found everything we bought was from people who were trying to do Pilates but didn't make it, didn't finish school.
There we go. I got to go to Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook Marketplace. Or going out of business. And I just learned, dude. I just kind of learned the machines. And so, I mean, that's the thing. Like I could have bought new equipment, but I just couldn't justify just me wanting to have a practice zone, you know, just $30,000, just shit that I show up for once a week, you know. So, dude,
I gotta say it's pretty great because, like, for example, like Mark's done a bodybuilding show, done powerlifting. You've gotten yourself into running. You've been a pro bodybuilder. You got an elite level total. I think we have some footage of you at the Arnold Sports Festival where you squatted like 640 something,
like that day. Yeah,
deadlifted 650 something. Like you put up some.
Oh, this is Raw Nationals 2015.
That's Raw Nats.
Yeah, this is Raw Nats 2015.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
so this is the year before. Yeah, I mean, for the time. So this year, I think, was this the year of Jesse Norris? You guys remember that year in the 93s?
Was this that year, Mark?
I don't know, but yeah,
no, that
Jesse
was
Norris was unbelievable.
What was this Scran? Yeah, this is Scran, right? So this year it was me. I think the top 5 was Lane, Norton, Ellis McLean.
Ooh, Ellis, where is he?
Still big boy, still lifting.
Right.
He's gonna lift to the day he dies, dude. Ellis McLean, Jesse Norris, and I believe me. This was before the Russ Swole days and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
But you've done this, right? And now, like, to go venture off into something that's so left field, that's so like just opposed to lifting, right?
Well, I mean, look at this. Let's look at this squat, right? Would we call this 633 a perfect squat? Let's look at it. Am I stable here?
It's a little shaky.
A little shaky, but it's a good lift.
Yeah.
How many times can I do this till I can't do that? Right. I think that's the larger question that I have. Right. And so for me, with Pilates, the big thing that I keep seeking is stability. How can I learn how to activate these muscles so that when I want to go out, foundation is the best word I can come up with. When I want to go out and do these things, how can I call on it? How can I do it? Right. So that's my big thing. So
your opener was 358. I wonder what your third attempt was for that bench.
Definitely under 400.
It was under 400?
Under 400.
370.
Ben Esco wrote my attempts, so you know he's got that win the meet at all costs kind of approach. So, but this was a good meet. This was a good year. Look how small this stage is compared to these days now, dude. How much money do they get for these contests now? They're like,
I don't know, man. I don't know.
You miss it?
There was no one watching back then, I don't think.
Do you miss it?
No. No, it's over.
You satisfied it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you satisfied it.
Yeah.
And what else is a man to satisfy things, put them down and pick up the next, you know? And I think you get involved with all this identity where you got good at that. And dude, the second you start sitting on a throne in this game, it decays. The second you sit on that throne, the second you say, I am king, the throne starts to just go to shit, like instantly. Like seeking and stewardship and being a student, I think is the game. And I've been telling you the whole day since I've been there, I appreciate you doing it because it's scary, dude. I picked up this Pilates, and as stupid as it sounds, my first thought was, what's everybody gonna think? I'm the Natty Pro. I've been the Natty Pro for 12 years, you know? Like, what does everyone think? And you go through this whole thing of, you got all this following, and you got all these people, but man, good style is ruthless. Good self-actualization is ruthless. You just gotta say, I don't know. It's up to them to figure it out, and I'm gonna make this change, and that's it. And then, you know, if you outwork somebody, you probably have a little more confidence in what you're doing anyway. So that's it. I'm on to the new thing. I mean, for me, it's still bread and butter, strength training, lifting weights. That is my preferred method to move. I think you know, I think it's the most accessible one with the commercial gym of America. You know, we're not in the age of aerobics anymore, like the 90s or anything. You know, we're in a new age. Instagram. I go to a Planet Fitness to do a little cardio in the morning. Planet Fitness, dude, they got Gymshark outfits now. And Planet Fitness, it's like, it's unbelievable how much this stuff has spread to the average everyday person. I'm really blown away. So I like it. I love it. And I think, after powerlifting, I would just, like you said, you would just feel like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. And I couldn't put a name on it. And it's just glue, man. Stability glue. It's stability. It's getting those muscles to turn on. And it's not that a muscle is off. I know that's a bad name for it, but like if you were to electrocute a person, shock their head. What are those things they used to put back in the day? You could send enough current through a person where they contract enough to jump that muscle off the bone. Like, we are capable of that superhuman strength. We just can't send the electricity. That's what they call it, crackhead strength, right? You can send, like, depending on your state, you can send more signal. You can send, it's electricity, right?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is electricity training. If you look at how a program works with periodization, it's basically just training electricity. You're trying to get more of a signal to get that muscle more and more and more turned on. But as you reach for that as your pinnacle, you forget things. You forget things. You say, I'm squatting 3 times a week. I'm squatting 3 times a week. I'm squatting 3 times a week. I'm running the program. I'm squatting 3 times a week. Ignoring that piriformis pain you have. And now you got this 10-year sciatica, you know what I mean? So that's been it. Trying to keep the thing we love. Trying to do the things we love. And I think at some point you got to explore it. And for me, Pilates is a method that's unified, right? If you do something here, it rewards you in another place, and it all ties in. And I've just been crazy about it. You got to come to Chicago, and I'll take the week off to roll you around, dude.
Yeah.
And just show you. Mark, you can come too. I know you're busy, but man, Andrew, that's my goal. I built it literally for that.
Yeah.
Just to introduce it to all my freaks.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys, man. I'm happy to be here.
Ryan, where can people find
There
you
you
real
go.
quick?
Oh, Instagram, dude. Instagram, where everyone's at. And if you prefer to actually get a message from me, email me. My email is ryan@fortiseq.com, FORTISEQ.com.
So we just finished up our podcast with Ryan, Doris, and we learned all about Pilates. So how about checking out this podcast right here about the feet? You probably have weak feet. I did. We all did. And you'd probably want to fix it. So click this right here. By this point, you really shouldn't be listening to me talk anymore, because you should have already clicked this video. Or do you want to live with weak feet forever? I mean, I don't think you do. So click the video.